Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's discussion titled Evolution Landscape, Need for Tech Talent in BPM. We are excited to have you join us today for this discussion on the evolving demands for tech talent in the BPM sector. Today, we'll be talking about emerging roles, the impact of technology, and how organizations can prepare their workforce for these changes. We'll also explore how to assess current employee skills, foster a culture of innovation, and bridge the gap between academic training and the industry needs. We will also be taking audience questions at the end, so please post your questions in the Q&A box and we will try our best to answer them. So as we kick off, I would invite our panelists to please introduce themselves. Asma, if you could go first.
Good afternoon, everyone. Asma this side. I head the talent acquisition globally and for India, both in Alorica. Been with Alorica for a little over 3 years now. Prior to Alorica, I was with Accenture, having close to about 25 years of experience in HR and in talent acquisition. And thanks for having me out here, Devanshu. Thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome, Asma. Yeah, James, if we could go ahead with yours.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks nasscom for having us here. My name is James, and I head the talent acquisition for EXL Global Solutions. Over 3 decades of experience, of which around 20 years has been with the BPM industry, was in the operations earlier and then moved on to the talent acquisition function. Happy to be here with my co-panelists. Thank you.
Jaidev, if you can go next.
Sure. Thanks, Devanshu. So lovely to be here, part of the nasscom meeting. I come with about 25 years of experience. Talent acquisition. I lead talent acquisition for India for Sutherland. I have played different roles in different organizations with IBM, with Genesis, with 247.ai, and I had my own startup for 5 years. So I've had my bit of challenge on both scaling as well as hiring as well as deploying solutions to companies. So I've seen different parts of the world. So here I am. Lovely to be part of this session, and thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Jaidev. Kunal, if you could, yeah.
Well, hi, good evening. Also, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kunal Rohilla. I lead EXL Digital's recruitment function globally. Been there in the industry for almost like 2 decades. Had flavor of campus, lateral, and all my experience has been with talent acquisition. I'm feeling proud to be part of this, and of course, feeling great about the co-panelists as well about this session.
So welcome, Asma, Jaidev, James, Kunal. Wonderful to have you all on this panel today. So now the BPM industry in India has been growing at a steady rate, and it has reached close to around $24 billion in FY24. Now, along with this growth in the industry is also experiencing a period of evolution, driven by the rapid technological advancements, changing client expectations, and the emergence of new ways BPM companies are trying to engage with their clients. Now, as the industry transitions from this, managing routine tasks to addressing more complex and strategic challenges, the landscape is being reshaped in ways that demand new skills and job roles. Now with that, I would like to come to you, Asma. What are some of the emerging roles that didn't exist a few years ago, and what skills do these roles require today and maybe in the next, 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I completely agree with what you just echoed it out here, Devanshu. I think BPM industry as such has evolved quite a bit from the time even I have seen being part of the BPO industry itself. I think a couple of things that I can call it out very clearly is emerging roles reflect rapid changes in technology, in society needs, in industry. That's everyone are aware about it. And I think from BPO standpoint or BPM industry standpoint, there have been multiple roles that has evolved in conjunction with automation, if I have to say. I think AI was not a term that was heard before ever in BPM industry. I think now hiring, we hire in our organization, we hire automation specialist or an RPA developer who focuses on implementing or managing robotic processes. We also hire data analyst, data scientist, which was not common 10 years back or 15 years back. I think data analyst roles help a lot extracting insights. Data-driven decision making helps manage the process far, far better. Customer experience or a CX designer, this is another key role that has emerged of late. AI chatbot or a developer or a conversation designer, this role helps manage AI-driven chatbots for customer support and interaction. Another few roles that recently, I mean, as I speak, just about few months back, that we started hiring, or rather globally and for India both, was cybersecurity analyst, metaverse architect. So when you put all these roles together, I mean, you can step back and see where BPM industry has evolved as of today, managing some of these automation, which was not the case before. It was a very standard roles that was executed earlier, and now if you look at it, I think there is a leap now from a technology standpoint, which is, I think, it's a normal now. I think that's where I leave it with. Maybe other fellow colleagues can chime in if they want to talk about it. But for me, the way the whole evolution of new technology has emerged has helped manage the talent and keep the talent upbeat on the ground for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Asma. Kunal, would you have what in your opinion, how
So
the roles
I
have changed?
completely agree. I completely agree and reciprocate what Asma has said. Of course, in BPN industry, the requirement of talent has taken a leap altogether into different AI, something which was never heard of, are talked very commonly. The things like CX, designers, and all these, attributes in terms of what BPM industry would require in the current phase is what is trending right now. The evolution has happened because I think the business demand has reshaped. It is not limited to what it was very traditional from a BPM industry, to provide more on the services side, related to just voice or non-voice collections, or even on the BFS side, the risk management and all. Now, a lot of technology interfaces has come in a way that they are trying to provide that more like a bundle to the customer, right? And the way that they are actually evolving from a business standpoint, and they're working on different offerings, it's a very competitive world, in the present space. The similar way, organizations demand in terms of creating that tech talent pipeline, providing that more like a solution oriented organization to their clients which they have, is what is basically emerging at this current phase. And this demand will rapidly grow. So uh, AI, ML, or for that matter the conversational AI, would not something be limited in terms of the product organizations and what they used to provide to our, for that matter, BPM clients. Now the BPM industry itself is going to provide that more like a solution, to their customers, and that's how this entire gamut is spreading across,
Okay.
and the demands are increasing that way.
Okay. So coming to you, James, as Asma and Kunal said that technology is expected to significantly increase. The usage of technology is going to significantly increase in BPM functions. With AI and automation coming in, do you also see nature of jobs being changed within the BPM industry?
Yeah, so I echo what Asma and Kunal mentioned, and to the last point of Kunal, where he mentioned that BPM organizations will have not only products created for themselves, but also to the general market as well, for whoever would be requiring some of these solutions that we have created for ourselves. So let me tell you, in relevant to the nature of job, how it has changed. So what used to take place earlier as a plain call center, where a customer would used to reach out to us, and then we used to have a solution for to them. As now, for us as third-party BPO providers, we need to improve our services. So what has taken place across all the BPO providers are they are introduced or looked at more software, more accelerators that can help us to service our customers in a better fashion. And to service the customers better fashion, we had a lot of data as far as the interactions are concerned, the history of customers are concerned. And that's where we started using AI as a support to us. That's where we had looked at what are the automations that can take place. So today the entire gambit, and each company has created their own products or services, that can help the customers as the end user. So what this has done is that if I, as an agent, my job today has become very easy. It's not that as complicated as earlier because I start getting real-time information as far as what the customers are requiring and how do I start answering to them. For some of the contact centers of BPM, the entire training time has shortened huge manner, which means for the customers, the results that they are getting today is much better than what it had been earlier. It also has places where you can evaluate the customer sentiments immediately. If there is an escalation that is required and the customer sentiment seems not to be happy, then how that happens automatically. So the entire channel has become one single omni channel where a customer can be attended to at any point of time in any which manner.
Okay. So now coming to you, Jaidev, as all three have said that the use of technology has changed the kind of roles, the kind of help that employees get in the BPM sector right now. So so with these changing roles, how can organization prepare their workforce for the shift in job roles? Because there's going to be a shift in the future as well. So as an organization, how do you prepare your current workforce for these changes?
Yeah, so that's very interesting. Yeah, we are going through a very interesting time, and over the last couple of years, I think we've shifted away, not away, but rather software and automation has created a foundation of sorts on which AI is today playing a very pivotal role to transform what we're doing on a day-to-day basis across the board. Maybe we know some of those changes, maybe we don't, but effectively it's impacting all our live streams, and so is BPM in a very big way. It's not just impacting BPM space, but I am saying it is impacting all business models across the world. So all entrepreneurs and all businesses scrambling to figure out how can they be ahead of the game. So as third party companies that most of us belong to, we are also doing we are playing a very strategic role as advisors and business partners to our companies that we work with. Large companies are the most impacted because today, where if you read news and if you hear all the nuggets of information that's coming out, the smallest of companies are having the biggest of impacts. And look at just see the valuation of OpenAI and ChatGPT. So this is affecting, the largest of companies like Google. So forget about the smaller organizations and people who are working in the other areas. So I think transformation is key, and the smartest of the people will recognize change ahead of time. How can we in the BPM space play a role? Is two things. One is definitely stay extremely relevant in the customer's domain and the space they are in. So there's a lot of verticalization that is happening across organizations such as ours. And within the vertical, there will be specialities, and I think James spoke about it. How are we scaling up the value chain for these companies? For example, if you're working in the finance domain, how do you scale up the value chain from a finance vertical perspective, and not only gain knowledge, but look at tools, practices, and processes that can apply this learning in a transformative way.
Coming to you, Kunal, as Jaidev and James echoed that there's going to be changes and there is need for specialization. So how companies can assess the current skill levels of employees and how to identify that areas of improvement? How do you upskill them for these evolving roles and specialization and to how to better support the customers?
Sure. I think so. There is definitely a strategy which talks about uh, from a talent standpoint is built by and you know now in order to look at these two strategies separately, of course, why is something that you typically hunt for people based upon whenever the biggest standpoint is on the build side of it. Now the build side talks about prima facie in terms of what are the how are you actually focusing on identifying these talents. Is it like typically you're heading in the market and that's how you understand it, or you're basically getting prepared for it? uh, Now in order to get prepared, a lot of organizations are investing, and of course in terms of identification for these skill set based upon what the customer needs are. Certain point in time, of course, based upon whenever the requirements come, we typically apply the go to market strategy, but somehow we need to talk about how to build them in house as well. So you have to foster some of you have to foster some of the pyramids in a way that you, in the mid level, you typically use your buy strategy, and at the bottom of the pyramid you start building them based upon the competencies that you're learning from them. Understand what are the technical know-hows that would require. A lot of things have become available from different spectrums on in the market of the different technical uh, partners that are available to make people learn that specific through either web learning or either in-house learning capability. Uh, the other aspect is also based upon the industry expert that you have in the organization. Someone like, of course, when you hire an AI architect, of course, most of the time he's involved in different projects. But of course, this is the integration and of course the evolution of what you're experiencing in your current business demands and all that. You should also prepare for a future standpoint. The bright talent that is coming from campuses or the bottom pyramid, how can you actually evolve them towards your technical training aspect? So you get external support in terms of getting those theoretical or non-theoretical knowledge in terms of these competencies, like what is evolving into generative AI. So if you talk about generative AI, NLP, uh, you know, m- ML, machine learning, is something which is still, which used to be new, but now it has changed to an LLM or an NLP languages, which are creating those similar models and helping into the AI world. How, and of course the organization has to also think about, when you have people in the organization, how can you actually nurture them, provide some OGTs in the create some batches like a buddy program that you can help in terms of learning new capabilities as well as transferring and preparing for the future as well.
Okay. So, Asma, do you see a similar thing happening in your organization, Alorica, where you're assessing the gaps, trying to upskill, or looking to hire talent and then upskill them to reach a certain point?
So yeah, I think this is a little closer to my heart as well. I think my 2 cents has always been is every organization, it's just not Alorica, or even in Accenture, we did this as well. I think every organization should assess the current skills and anticipate what is coming up in future. And and it's very simple to do it, right? You have structured evaluation methods, you have technical tools, you have strategic planning that you can possibly do. But I think I've always believed in the threefold exercise. That one is, can we just assess our current skill levels? Maybe basically, how do we do it? We conduct some skill inventories, compile a database of all the competencies of every single team member, do some self-assessments, have some manager evaluations to figure out who's in the what structure they are right now. And I think then maybe use some competency framework which really helps to define roles of every individual, the current skill the person is playing as against the framework, and then maybe do a gap analysis. This will help us to manage, the current team member against the required skill that is needed. And then maybe, do we have the appetite to handle those particular skills? All right, if my existing team members, they don't fall to the purview of the new game that we are looking for, can we have them upskill, cross skill? That's extremely needed. And I think I strongly believe in leveraging some assessment tools. It's very, very important. Maybe run some in Accenture and in Alorica also, we did this gamified skill testing platforms, which will help us manage some of the soft skills better. Run some technical skill assessments as well, which will help us see who's lacking what kind of skills if needed be. And then maybe analyze through real-term performance metrics, which will help manage their skills, their KPIs, their throughput, and then monitor the productivity. I think I always believe in these three steps. And I think the last would be is, how do I identify the areas of improvement? How do I categorize those gaps, whether it is in technical skills, whether it is in soft skills, whether it is in process related skills? And then maybe, define or align these categories against the business goals and work towards the learning paths. That's how I think I would put everything in under one bouquet to make this work and ensure that the workforce, to what James added as well, are we relevant? Are we staying are we accepting that yes, transformation is the key, and if we don't self invest in our own abilities, skills, we might lag behind. And hence, there is a bit of onus that leaves with an individual and with the enablers that the organization perhaps can bring it on the table.
So coming back to you, James, as both Asma and Kunal said that, upskilling and identifying those gaps are important. But while doing so, have you ever faced, resistance from employees that, while upskilling them, how has it been? How organizations do overcome that? I'd like that to open that question to you.
Sorry, I was on mute. So just to add to what, Asma mentioned, the key is, the skill gap assessments that we constantly do as far as the employee life cycle is concerned.
Yeah.
And this, to most of the BPM, starts at the recruitment stage itself, where we do an assessment and try to check whether does he has the minimum skills that can qualify as far as any of our process is concerned. And then we need to, keep upskilling them, or else you have two-fold impact that can take place, and the impacts are very high for a third-party organization like ours. One would be the attrition, because your people who are working with you, if they don't see that this organization is investing in me, then his next thought is that, this is not the right place for me, right? And the second thing is that if I go out and, try to acquire talent, it is always costlier. So if I have a plan that takes place internally as far as growth is concerned, then it is always better that I put in all our efforts as far as cross-skilling them are concerned. Over and beyond that, many of the organizations today, and specifically in Hindujas today, the entire group has understood the importance as far as digital is concerned, AI is concerned, ML is concerned. And that's where we have looked at a group-wide initiative, which is known as DigiRise, in which there is a compulsory investment that every employee has to do for a X amount of hours and get them certified through LinkedIn or through the nasscom Future Skills, or get them certified. So that becomes important. As far as people reluctant to do this, you will usually find people who feel that they have some of the skills that they have acquired somewhere else to continue with those learnings that they need to do. But that also we overcome by ensuring that every manager, one of their KRA is to ensure that how they are working on the development of his team members and how they are participating in some of these skill-based training programs that takes place.
Okay. And Jaidev, coming to you, do you see a structured approach in trying to figure out the skill levels and how to anticipate those future skill development needs, skill requirement needs? Is there a structure that organizations need to follow? How do we go about it?
Yes, so I think it's a very pertinent question, because your skills are evolving on a constant basis, and the demand from businesses are also evolving. For example, what was in ask a year back is not today's demand. So um, like as the organization move up the value chain, automatically so do the skills. And there's a very robust training mechanism that is evolved in organizations, very mature, in the sense that, look, there are some mandatory skills that every person must possess at a minimum. And as roles change, those skills evolve. And the training methodologies and the way in which skills are imparted also changes, moving from, online self-paced training to, to instructor-led training, and then experiential training over a period of time. And then, of course, working, understanding, really, putting yourself as a thinker and, as a creative thinker, and how do you kind of inculcate creative faculty to make some leadership changes within the structure that is there. So I think the training program or the skill development program that organizations are evolving right now are very linear in the way in which business is also evolving. So it's important to adapt to the changing environment and create. There are platforms and tools available to support the whole thing, but it's not just about platforms and tools. How are we creating the culture of training? How are we having the right people, asking the right questions, creating an environment of training? For example, there are very complex accounts where they're just not doing tasks. They are going beyond the tasks. They are moving into a realm where they are spending more time researching on topics. So there are research roles being created within certain domains. In such cases, what happens is the skills that are required there has to be designed. Your training program also has to be designed in such a way.
Yeah. So, Asma, everybody talked about, BPM industry moving up the value chain, and that need for, innovation and empowering. So how companies can foster a culture where, they can empower the employees to innovate, and, implement new ideas, especially once you're moving, up the value chain.
So I think the biggest key thing out here is fostering a culture of innovation is that empowers tech talent to experiment, or for an individual per se. I think the key thing is let's build an open and inclusive environment. I mean, what it means encourage an open communication. Let's create a platform for employees to share ideas freely. That could be hackathons, that could be innovation forums, that could be brainstorming sessions. And then maybe, yeah, if there are organizations who have these um, tools like Slack or MS Team to foster some cross-team discussions that can help. Um, we need to provide opportunities for experimentation. That is the key. I think most of the time what happens is every individual gets sucked into their day-to-day work, their BAU, their KPIs, and they tend to ignore that they need to do something creative as well. And if we, as an organization, if we don't put this top down saying that 10% of your time or 20% of your time can we encourage in running some creative projects? I mean, that helps. Encourage employees to create new technologies and concepts in addition to their BAU. Run some innovation programs. Like I said, hackathon is one. Maybe design sprints, idea challenges. Encourage them to get into a problem solving kind of concepts. Develop a, a sandbox environment. I don't know, not too many people uh, agree to this, but I completely echo to what this whole thought process is: setting up a risk-free environment where employees can test new ideas, new prototypes without impacting core operations. Um, Example, in my previous organization, one of the team did this by using AWS or Azure or Google Cloud for some rapid experimentations. Actually, that really worked. Support risk taking and failure, I think it is normal to fail for people as a learning. I think if we don't, there is no learning, there is no takeaway. So let's encourage that thought process of saying that it's fine to fail in some of the experiments that couldn't have gone well. So let's celebrate the lessons from unsuccessful projects. That is a key thing, I think. Many people reprimand some of these people where their ideas have failed or their projects have failed. But for me, I think I strongly believe that an organization should come forward to celebrate some of these lessons learned from these unsuccessful projects. Um, let's allocate a certain budget for experimentation. It's very, very important. It's a small scale pilots. Let's do a small scale pilot than doing a full blown project. Empower cross functional collaboration. It is the key. This will help breaking down the silos, encourage collaboration tech between business, creative teams, and enabling functions. This will help manage a lot of ideas blend together with the developers, with the designers, with the other teams as well. I think and the last bit I would like to say is let's invest in continuous learning. Upskilling is the key. Upskilling is the key for a person to stay put, to stay up the channel. It's very, very important. So let's invest in continuous learning, upskilling program, access to knowledge resources based tool, and let's reward and recognize innovation. I think that is what I strongly believe, that if an organization has to foster that culture, some of these attributes or thought process, I think we need to bring into the table to make it work.
Yeah, I think I echo your thoughts, Asma. You need to empower these, empower the employees to innovate and fail, and maybe the organization as a whole can take this as a learning, and it also leads to better retention rates, better employee satisfaction. People feel empowered at work as well. And James, with all this talk about changing roles and use of technology and technology like AI, automation, and upskilling your employees, do you see skills becoming an essential consideration when hiring tech talent?
Absolutely, the answer to it is what you and Asma was just talking about. Like you were mentioning about you know failures should take place, and that's where you learn things. So obviously the choice would be, when I go out there and look out for a skill that has he had the ability to take the risk, right? That becomes a skill that we would look out for. Similarly, she mentioned about collaborating, right? So does the person has a ability to collaborate with the team? Is he a team player, right? Open to learning, right? Because there are new technologies that are coming in. So is he or she open to learning? Innovative mindset. So these are some of the skills that becomes important, because end of the day you have to engage with your customers, you have to engage with your stakeholders, you have to engage with your clients, and to manage these things you definitely have to have some of these soft skills. That becomes very, very important. But one of the soft skills that I think which becomes very important, and which is something that we lack overall, would be the communication skills. I think if overall, if we can build up that skill in India, I'm pretty sure that you will have a lot of more job opportunities that would come across.
Yeah, I completely agree. I hear it from a lot of companies, especially with the freshers coming in. There's a lot of gap for the communication skills, and that that ability to take ownership. That is the two things that are mentioned the most as a gap for what academia delivers and what industry needs. So Jaidev, coming to you, do you think that there needs to be a balance between the soft skills and the tech skills? What is it that is there a balance, or tech skills take center stage and it is good to have soft skills, or how is it?
So I think very valid points that you have said, James, there. And while the actual job is done with technology in mind and your knowledge base, it is important for you to hone a lot of other skills to make it work well. And it requires you to communicate well. Communication is a good skill. It must have skill. You need to have the ability to listen, understand what's happening, ability to expand your perspective. That's another very critical skill, because because we are all working in small organizations on small tasks. The moment you expand your perspective, bring in the larger context in mind, and how the domain is evolving, how the technology is evolving, how you learning some of this, you'll be naturally able to fill in your skill. So there has to be a very strong inquisitive bent of mind that the person has to be born with, so that the learning process is continuous. So especially in our area, most unfortunately or fortunately, most of the people that we hire and the kind of tasks that we um, get people to do are cookie cut in many ways. Even software, and even though analytics skill, most of the people don't think out of the box. How do you really create that capability? So it's a very big issue at hand, especially when we find out that people don't come with out of the box thinking, because they're not really exposed. They're not really they don't know what's happening in the industry. So from a campus perspective, I can tell you, I've we are very vociferously hiring, very much vociferously hiring from campus. One of the things, I mean, definitely colleges all stand crack at different levels, right? Top tier colleges, they have exposure, they've got really industry connections, and they encourage leaders to go address them regularly. The content is also constantly created, so anything new is there part of the discussion, right? So they have they make sure that all the students listen to talks from all the latest changes that happen in the industry and so on. But unfortunately, from an Indian context, what's happening is your middle tier, your bottom tier is really undercapacitized and does not have the exposure, because we've not invested in the right training inputs, not the teachers training, right? So what the problem is, that lot of colleges and the institutions in that band, which is churning out large number of students, your hireability from that pool is very less, extremely low. So for example, I can tell you, if I go to a tier 2, tier 3 college, we are able to hardly pick up a handful of people who meet all the thresholds that are required across different programs, right? So as and when programs move up the value chain, and your inability to hire from these colleges amplify, what's going to accentuate it, what's going to happen is you will find unemployment rise, right? We will not be able to pick up. While there is a demand for jobs, people are not able to scale up. So I think it is an interest of all our organizations that we continuously invest in campus, colleges, and institutions. And that investment has to be experiential. It has to be like, it has to be very pervasive. We have to keep talking to them about what's happening in the industry and so on. So that's going to bring about a big change.
Yeah, true. We've seen this come from the industry time and again, and we as NASSCOM also are trying a couple of things to bridge that gap. One is we keep on doing digital in these tier 2, tier 3 colleges, where we take industry experts and who can go and talk to these students of what is it that the industry wants. Talk to the faculties as well, because what we have seen a gap is that faculties themselves don't know what the industry needs, because they're busy with the day-to-day things. So we try to call these faculties into our discussions, into our events, for to give them an exposure. What the industry is going through, what is the kind of gap there is. Then we have our own upskilling platform, Future Skills, which has courses certified from industry leaders. We're going to tier 2, tier 3 colleges, asking their students to enroll for these courses, get certified, give them that set of exposure. So we're trying to do that. We are also trying to do a guru skill kind of a thing. We are trying to train the trainer kind of a model. We're still in conversation how to do about it, just to bridge that gap. So this industry academia gap is something that has been echoed by the industry a lot. So Jaidev, there is definitely a gap, but how do organizations bridge that gap? Because you have to hire fresh talent, you have to have them on roles.
Yeah, so it's very interesting, because we did an academia conclave in Chennai, where we invited about 200 college principals, and the idea there is to really build partnership with colleges, not just hire from colleges. And that partnership involved us embedding our trainers, and help them curate their delivery content. The second thing is really enabling, as you rightly said, enabling the tutors and trainers to understand what's happening in the industry. Can they get a little more empowered, get access to tools, systems, and processes like our employees do? So they are able to relay the same thing in their curriculum and their content. So one is, of course, at the content level and the curriculum level changes is super, super important. Second is exposure of colleges and institutions to what is happening really in the industry, because there is a big gap between what is actually being done in colleges from a content from a you know delivery, content delivery and training, and what is expected by us in our from an employment perspective. There is a massive gap. So when we talk about skill gap, we're just talking about training alone. uh, Now government has come up with a NAPS internship program, and NASSCOM is, as you rightly said, NASSCOM is doing a lot of content creation and empowering the colleges with content so they can really upskill themselves. So I think the bare minimum skill that is required has to get addressed first. The only way to get that addressed is exposure and constant exposure. So all organizations such as us have to do a lot of work. It's not easy. It's a long process, but we have to go through that pain, and we have to go through that whole process.
Oh, yeah. So Kunal, you guys are also doing some sort of academic partnership, or how are you bridging that gap?
So we are kind of moving in that direction in terms of some of the university partnerships, in terms of providing that insight in terms of what is evolving presently in the digital world, for that matter, and how solution building has become a key or a pivotal role in any digital ecosystem, or for that matter BPM space, when we are evolving. So we are definitely working on in that direction in terms of doing partnership with the some of the universities, in terms of giving them insight in terms of how this is happening. Some of the industries leader which are there becomes a part of their their group in a way that it is not related to what they have to change more from a student standpoint, but it has to be from the overall academic standpoint. Evolving around some of the universities which can provide an industry training for a longer duration, rather than being a very traditional short span of about 2 months, where the organizations are not able to leverage both channels, more from the candidate who's available versus what they do in the organization is able to bridge that gap and create that brand awareness as well. About the change in the industry, the change in technology, because what a student typically do in an internship in a shorter amount of time, it doesn't reciprocate the kind of evolvement, or for that matter different technology interfaces that he could see as part of longer duration of internship. So some of the universities which are moving from being the AICT to probably being deemed university are evolving and having those 6 months of curriculum in their part of the curriculum, in a way that they can partner with the organizations to get internship for over 6 months. I think that is also one of the aspects that uh, mostly of the organization that the service industries are investing into. So I think if we are moving in that direction, definitely that helps. A lot of things I also feel that if we are able to bridge that gap in a way that we are able to provide that vision of work assimilation rather than traditional job descriptions, right? I think if we are able to partner that and provide that kind of a knowledge, it becomes very, very easy to get that a ready-made talent. It's also somewhere bridges the skill gap as well. Because right now, a job description coming after 6 months of time frame, somebody joining, and then of course going another 6 months of training, as well as work assimilation standpoint, delays the entire overall process for about a year. If you have that person joining the organization a little earlier, getting to know about the technology changes, interfaces, as well as getting that work assimilation attribute, I think it ease out a little bit and make most of the students who are coming from the universities a little bit job ready.
Sure, yeah. True. I think that it needs to be a academy industry partnership kind of a thing where
Right.
instead of this it just change of academia and then people going to industry and finding out that there's a huge gap. There needs to be a transition between academia and the industry where you constantly upskill these students and by the time they are ending their academic thing, they are ready to be absorbed with by the industry.
Absolutely.
This way, you will also get a lot of employee satisfaction, a lot of confidence, and that ownership might also come in because people are comfortable in their roles. They know what needs to be done instead of going to figure out that there's a big difference between what they've done in academy and the corporate life.
So the first problem that is there in work assimilation for any graduate who joins from the colleges, the organization has to figure out where to put that guy,
Yeah.
right? Yet of course, if that the identification of that skill particular pertaining what you would need probably down the line 6 months, if that can happen through understanding more from a work assimilation standpoint, work becomes a little easier. And if you see in the last 2 years how things have dipped a little bit on the industry need for fresher talent is also one of the reasons that has impacted it in a big way.
Yeah, excellent point. So James, we have talked about that, there is a gap between academia and industry. So if when you're going for, say, fresher hiring, what is the skills and attributes that you're looking for to figure out that, hey, this is the right candidate and we can, upskill them or, groom them for the roles that they are going to be, hired for?
Yeah. So first of all, I would like to, thank Sutherland as well as nasscom for the efforts that you all are doing as far as, bridging that gap is concerned. For example, getting 200 principals in Chennai is a big job. And, and nasscom, I for sure knows that all the initiatives and actions that you guys are taking to bridge that gap. So that's a great, initiative by you all. So clearly, when we also get into to take a step back, we almost have around 70% of our hiring that takes place from the freshers population. So there's a huge demand there. And when we go to the campus, mostly what we look out for is that whatever we spoke about as far as the industry understanding is concerned, does the person have an understanding of the industry or not? Many a times people get into a job just to get a job and not understanding the industry in full and thinking about how they are planning as far as their overall career graph is concerned. So clearly that becomes important. Similar to what we mentioned earlier, are they doing some sort of a research? Are they people with a mindset that they are able to do research? Because as much as you want them to do some of your jobs, but we have seen if people who have those ability to research, ability to have a problem-solving methodology in them, these are the people who have most of success. I already emphasized as far as communication skills are concerned that we clearly look out for, and then based on the nature of job we may have some more skills that would be required. But I pretty see that most of the students now have been educated in a manner that they develop these skills. But these are the skills that would be of importance when we are looking out for a candidate.
I think we're running out of time. We have some questions from the audience as well. Just one final question, Asma. We've talked about upskilling. We've talked about creating that culture, about the kind of skills that are required. With all that, what are the biggest challenges that the organizations are facing in attracting and retaining talent, especially in the BPM industry?
I think 2 cents from my side is, Devanshu, I think there is a lot of competitiveness in the market. And of course, if just-in-time hiring is not happening, you might lose out the supply big time to another organization or another BPM industry itself. So I think from what we do in our organization to ensure that we don't lose out people to the market is to ensure that we retain the talent by giving them the right role, show them the career progression from, I mean, if I have to hire somebody at a fresher level, I mean, giving a clear path to individuals saying that by so and so year, you will reach up to this particular level, provided you invest X number of skills, like James mentioned as well, it's very important for an individual also to carve out some bit of learning. So what matters for us is, because it's an industry which is extremely agile right now, very fragile as well. I mean, 60 to 70% is the attrition that you easily manage it on the ground. And how do I ensure that I hold them up? How do I ensure that I don't lose them to the competitors, ensuring that their growth is managed? We work towards their career track, their progression, what's in it for them from a learning standpoint, on-job assignments, self-paced trainings, multiple other things, so that the individual's stickiness to the organization stays there, he stays committed, and he honed the skills that is required by the industry and by the market and by the organization as well. I think that becomes extremely crucial. And I think one thing that we typically leave a message to all individuals out there is, if you want to grow, you need to deliver, you need to take certain actions by yourself as well. As an organization, we can help you enable XYZ attributes, but the rest comes under your ownership, your accountability. So it becomes extremely imperative on an individual as well to take that accountability to move up the channel. And second thing that we typically advise everyone, and from an HR standpoint or from a TA standpoint, that what we try to do is, we know hiring is not easy, losing it's pretty easy. So instead of losing them, how do we retain them, keeping them engaged, keeping them what they need from a work standpoint makes a lot of difference. Moving from one process to another process, or maybe moving from one rotation to another rotation, job shifts I'm talking about, makes a lot of difference at that particular age group. Just to what James mentioned, I think he said 70% is his fresher hiring. Our historically, our number says about 45 to 50% is my fresher hiring, and the rest is my experienced hiring. However, it's the freshers who stick to the organization as opposed to an experienced person. So we try to invest a lot on freshers curriculum, on freshers landscape, saying that this is what you need to stay invested in, so that you see your career in next 1 year or next 2 years, show them the entire path. I think that helps. That has helped us in our current organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think communication, open communication between what an employee needs,
Yeah.
and what they're looking at, and as you rightly said, hiring is difficult, letting go is easy. So how do you fix that? I think that is why you need to have a two-way communication around what are the employee needs, whether they're looking at upskilling, what is it, and then try to figure that out. So with that, I think I'll just open the questions that our audience have put across. So I'll just read the questions, and whoever feels comfortable taking these questions, you can chime in. So the first question is from Saurabh. He's asking, are you experiencing evolution in the CRM processes? Have expectations moved from reactive to proactive customer experience management?
I can take that question, right? So yes, and definitely a proactive approach to solving customers' problem. The first thing is really not to have problems. So I think organizations are now becoming super intelligent, mature. Earlier problems used to be acceptable. Now what they're looking at is what's the source of the problem. So that's where AI is playing a big role, really curtailing all the problems at its source and nipping it in the bud. So what's happening is the number of people required to support a very large business is dramatically shrinking across all the organizations. And this is giving a good ground because CRM tools are also like extremely sharp and aggressive, right? So they also know that that is where intent is getting addressed very appropriately. So the intent of the problem and the solution. On the sales side as well, you're seeing this, right? You're not targeting, you're not doing cold calling anymore. You're not doing any of that. So very focused targeting and so the intent based understanding the customer and really nipping the problem in the bud is where investment is happening.
Okay. So the second question is from Vamsi. She's asking, along with the skill assessments, one of the biggest challenges, how do we show a career path in the BPM industry? James mentioned that attrition issues are, as current employees feel what next. But could you kindly suggest how can you show a career roadmap of 5 to 10 years or more? Shall I? Yeah.
I can take that.
Yeah.
I think it's a very valid question, and it becomes very imperative in BPM industry to show the career growth, whether we are hiring a fresher or whether we're hiring an experienced person, because at the end of the day, the job gets monotonous. And how do we make it exciting for an individual to, stay connected and stay engaged? It is the key element. I think from a showing career growth, for every organization, especially the BPM industry, I'm talking about it, it's fair to be open and transparent to an individual, saying that if we hire you as an agent, how soon can you become a team manager? How soon can you become an STM or a senior team manager? Or how soon you can become an SME? And to get there, what are the 5 or 6 primary skills or 5 or 6 secondary skills that you need to hold on to it, and then show a consistency in your performance for you to reach there? In our organization, we have a very differentiated frameworks which will help an individual to take that accountability, to apply to that kind of a framework, go through the framework. The framework is about 3 months to 6 months. If the person successfully completes the particular project or initiative or framework that I'm talking about, he is easily recognized to get to the next level. Now, again, from X to Y, if you have to reach, there are certain parameters which are you need to accountable for, and there are certain parameters which your manager evaluates you as well. Bottom line is, it's very easy to show the career graph for an individual whom we hire in BPM industry from 0 to 5 years, where the person can easily reach there, and how long will it take for you to be there? What are the key skills that you basically need to hold? And it's very simple.
Just to add to what Asma mentioned, I think according to me, with whatever experience I have worked across the manufacturing and services, I think BPM is one of the industry in which people can make their career very fast. And a person who joins us as an agent, we have case studies of people who have gone across to become a senior vice president or to handle very large teams as well. So I think contrary to what maybe what the perspective is in the fresher's mind, I think this is something that we may have to address. But the fact is that it is a fast growing for all the people who join us.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that is all the questions that we got today, and we are actually ending bang on time. So thank you all for attending this session. We sincerely appreciate your engagement and interest in this discussion. A heartfelt thank to our esteemed panelists for sharing their insights and experience and for taking time out to be with us today. Your contributions are instrumental in opening the discussions around the areas that we discussed about today: the impact of technology, the strategies for bridging the gap, the importance of fostering a culture of innovation. I think these are some of the pertinent discussions that we need to continue to talk about as BPM industry continues to evolve. Thank you once again for your participation, and look forward to seeing you all in all our future events. Thank you. With that,
thank you, Devanshu, for hosting us.
Yeah.
Thank you so
so
much.
Thanks, Devanshu. Have a good day.
Thank you.